Hey, in this video, I'm going to show you how I make this secret hidden gun safe coat rack. Okay, maybe not so secret, but it still looks pretty cool. Let's get into it. All right, so grab yourself some scrap wood or one of these wonderful project edge glued panels that I get from Lowe's. I'm sure they have similar over at the HD, and let's get to cutting. I cut this backing plate out of the edge glued panel. I would normally use plywood, but if you're just doing this as a hobby or make it for yourself, you don't want to have to buy a big 4x2 piece of plywood. So you would probably just need to buy 2 of these for the whole project. So roughly around $32. So backing piece, 2 side pieces. We will cut this here. This is what I call the ledge piece. These 2 pieces here, and then the roof on top. So we're going to cut these side pieces at an angle. I'm going to measure up 4 inches, and then 3/4 here, which is going the thickness of the wood, and then we'll make our line. Repeat over here, cut it on the saw, I'll be right back. All right, so here's the 2 side pieces cut. On this backing piece, we're going to pop 2 pocket holes in the back on each side. All right, first step in assembly is we are going to put these side pieces on. Just make sure right here on the top, it's flush. The bottom can be a little off flush if for some reason you didn't cut it right, because you can always sand that down, but on this top, because we're going to add that roof piece, you want to make sure it's flush. All right, done with that. Next, we're going to put on the ledge piece. All right, so remember we cut these 2 middle pieces, which are essentially going to be the sides for where the door or the gun compartment is going to be, at 7 inches. So we're going to measure down 7 inches, make a mark, and then that's where we're going to set this ledge. If you want to physically measure it, after you make the mark, go ahead and set the ledge where it's supposed to be. And then set in these, doesn't matter where, just make sure it's flush here at the top, where it's supposed to sit in, just to kind of double check your measurements there. I'll put a bead of glue, we'll brad nail it in from the sides, flip it over, measure again from the top, 7, and then we'll put a couple brads in the back. Before I put these brads in, I'm going to use this square just to make sure it's lined up. All right, so we're going to come in from the end 9 1/4, and that's going to be the inside of where you're going to put these 2 supports, and that's going to give us a 10.5 inch long compartment by 7, which is plenty to hold. It holds my Glock 17 with the Streamlight, holds it no problem, so there's plenty of space in there. Make another mark here down. But of course, you can customize this to any size that you want. I'm going to add a bead of glue along the back ridge and on the bottom. I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to set 2 nails in the top first. Just realized I didn't put those 2 brads in the back, so we'll do that real quick. Now for the bottom, use your square lined up here, and then make sure it's lined up here. And if it is, then go ahead and throw 2 brads right here. So here's how we're looking so far, and now we'll throw this roof piece on. I'm just going to put glue along each one of these, obviously the back, set it on, brad nail it. All right. That essentially is 95% of the job. Next, I'm gonna make these shelves right here, and I'm gonna make the door. So the door is gonna be cut just shy of 10.5 by 7, because you want about a 1/16 space on each side. So about 10 3/8 for the door lengthwise, and 6 7/8 for the height of the door. And let's double check these. 8 3/8 length and 3 3/8 width. All right, so I got the 2 shelves cut right here. I'm not gonna lock them in yet because it is really a pain trying to stain these little pockets here. So I'm going to stain first and then pop it in. And then the door to what is going to be the gun safe. I use a piece of poplar for this. You can certainly use the pine. I used to make these and sell these. I still sell something very similar to this, and I always use poplar. It's stronger. You don't have the knots in it. It's nice and smooth and uniform, mostly. So we're gonna stain this up. Got it all stained up. I used dark walnut, and now we're gonna put the shelves in. As you might notice, I did not stain the edges because I have the nail holes from the ledge, and I'll have the nail holes from these, so I'm gonna get these in, put some putty in there, sand it up real quick, and then get these sides done. So just try to get these right in the middle. So remember, this is 7, so put it at 3.5. I can't really squeeze a square in there to make sure it's you know, exactly where it's supposed to be, but you're just gonna have to eye it. All right, got all those in. Take care of the sides. Get it stained up, be right back. All right, we're in the home stretch now. We're just gonna drill the holes for the hinges in this. I'm using inset hinges. That's how I designed this rack. I use this little Kreg hinge driller doohickey thing here. I've had it for 7 years now. The same one, as you can tell, it's still going strong, works great, never had any problems. I don't even think I've changed the blade, honestly. And I'll probably use it about 12 times a month. Maybe sometimes upward near 20 during the Christmas season. So going great. I'll show you how I use this. And I use hinges I get off of Amazon. Yeah, they come for overseas, but again, I've probably used, I can't even tell you. As much as I've drilled these holes, I've used these hinges and only these hinges, and I've hardly got any bad ones. So great hinges, and you can't beat the price. So I'll leave a link to all that below. All right, let's get this drilled. We'll get this door put on and finish it up. All right, I move it towards the edge. You can adjust how deep you need it to be depending on what type of hinges you're using, but this is obviously set to where I go, or to what I use. I set this on the edge right there where I want it, and then just throw some clamps on, clamps to the bottom of my table. Just go nice and slow, nice and easy. Looks good. All right, so now that we got that drilled, we got some options when it comes to the lock. Obviously from the picture you saw, and from the beginning of this video, you saw which one I did. But I've used things such as these magnetic locks, which are actually meant for kids, like for cupboards and whatnot, for toddlers. And you put a magnet on the outside and it'll make the latch go in so you can open the door. I've tried the RFID ones. The ones that are in range of being affordable, in my opinion, the ones I've used have all been bulky. They're kind of hit or miss, so I don't like using them, and you would have to make actually the compartment larger. So the compartment now is about 3.5 inches deep. You probably have to add an extra inch to that because they're pretty, the ones I've seen are pretty bulky. They're like this thick. So I'm using this cabinet latch. It's a regular old keyed latch. And so we're gonna have to drill a hole in this about I think it's an inch is what I use for this. I'll leave a link for this. I've used these dozens of times. I sell these whiskey bars too on my Etsy store where I put locks on them and I use these. They work great. I don't have a Forstner bit. Now that I've been introduced to the Forstner bit, I love them. They hardly have any tear out, but I'm gonna have to use a spade bit because that's the only one inch bit I got for that. And then it's a very simple, the clasp. So it sits right here and this goes against the thing and gives you what you need there. Pretty decent hole. Put it against this really helps. And then going in one side once you get the hole coming in from the other side. All right. I don't want to set that in all the way because this will kind of bounce around in here a little bit because it has this little covering, which will, there we go. Hinges. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this latch in, and that cover is actually going to rest on that latch. So I'm going to make sure I'm using a scrap piece of wood here just to kind of give me the thickness of the door, where it would actually line up. Now it does have some adjustability on this latch, so you don't have to make it perfect. Meaning, you know, it's got larger cut area, so you can adjust it up and down a little bit. Now this is the easiest way it is for me to do it. I turn it on its side, and I'm going to lay this in, and then screw in the hinges. And then the hinges have adjustment screws on them, 2 of them each, if you need to, you know, adjust it. So usually when I do it, I will need some adjustment. If you can see this, it's off here. So I'll use the screws inside to adjust it. All right, and that's pretty close. We are going to stick a 25-pound rated gun magnet right there. There's a ton of people that make these. This one comes in a 4-pack. Stick that right there in the middle. It is enough to secure and hold any pistol in there so it will not fall out or budge. And then we will put on the coat hooks. Okay, at this point, if you so choose, you could be done. This is a beautiful hidden gun coat rack ready to mount. But you could get decorative, which you saw on the thumbnail, I'm sure. You could put some kind of cover over the front. If you knew someone with a laser engraver or a CNC, they could just take this piece of wood before you put the hinges on it and do something up for you. If you've got a Cricut, you could do a design with that. A very simple way that I still use, but used for a long time, I don't use it as much anymore, is doing Mod Podge. Mod Podge is like a glue and a sealer. So you can print out a design on your computer, put the Mod Podge on, lay on the picture, and then put the Mod Podge over top, and it'll act as a sealer. Mod Podge, they come in smaller ones if you want, and then just a brush. And then you just brush it on. A lot of experts on YouTube, a lot of crafters probably can tell you all the ins and outs on Mod Podge, but it's pretty simple. Just apply a base layer. It's going to be the glue. If you get some on the other side, don't worry, just wipe it off. Just make sure you put enough on here because you're probably going to need to adjust it a little bit. And if you don't put a thick enough layer, it'll be more difficult to adjust. Try to even it out as much as possible. I printed this a little bit small, so I'm going to cheat over to the right side just to make sure I cover that lock hole enough. And then you're just going to push out any of the air bubbles while pushing down the edges to make sure it seals. If you find a corner that's not sticking, you can lift it up, add some more. As soon as I got all the air bubbles smoothed out, I put the sealing coat, I guess we'll call it, on. We're good, and we'll let that dry. We are all dry. It is nice and smooth for the most part. So I'm gonna cut a hole in the flag where the hole is so we can get that lock in. Ta-da! Full-size Glock 17 with Streamlight fits perfectly. All right, all done, lock's back in, flag looks good. Now I just gotta find a really nice place where I'm gonna hang this in the house.
Well, I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm gonna hang this in the house, babe. Look at this, nice, right?
No, it's very nice.
Yeah.
It's not going in the house.
This is gonna look great in the entryway.
We already have one in the entryway.
Yeah, but this one's better. You can put a gun in it.
No.
We need one where you can put a gun in it, not your candles, gun.
You have a gun safe. I don't need that. No.
Honey,
it's
come on.
Beautiful. It's great. It's great work, but no, I got enough of that around my house.